true? He said on Pints with Acquaintance he had to propose to you 3 different times?
It was 3.
What is that about?
Well, you know.
I think I know what I want to talk about. We're going to talk about identity tonight. And I was like, holy moly, this is how you guys roll, huh?
Yeah,
It's like
that's
there's
right.
a stadium full of people out there.
Yeah.
And it's like,
And it's up to women to tell the man they want to have a baby. It's not up to anyone else.
Ruslan.
I remember during your talk, which by the way, side note, how do you prepare those talks, or are you just kind of flowing? Because you did a great talk on identity and you shared a bit of your story in college, and this is at the rise of like feminism and all these sorts of things. And you talked about your own identity as a woman and what it meant to be a woman in college versus being married versus then having kids. It was brilliant. Are you writing these out word for word? Are you kind of in your head prepping and then going?
I write them out during the day, and try to make sense of what I've written, and then I put it away and I go out and I talk about it. And whatever I remember, I talk about.
Got it. Okay. Because I was gonna say, if you just went up there and freestyled that's pretty phenomenal. Because there was a lot of meat in that talk.
Yeah.
Okay, so you write it out, and then
I write out the gist of what I'm going to talk about.
So that like a note outline with points you want to hit.
Yeah, and so I'll sometimes write it out, and then I think, well, I'll write all the headlines, and then I'll see, okay, those are the 5 headlines. That's what I'm going to talk about. And so then if I can remember those headlines, then I can remember the argument. Yeah.
Was that your first time doing that identity talk?
Probably.
Okay.
Or it might have been the first or second time.
Yeah.
Because Jordan doesn't talk about the same thing all the time. I have to change what I'm saying all the time.
Yeah. Well, I was there when we were hanging out, me and Neil. Well, I was in Neil's green room, and then he walks in and super sweet, and then he turns to Jonathan. He goes, I think I know what I want to talk about. We're going to talk about identity tonight. And I was like, holy moly, this is how you guys roll, huh?
Yeah,
it's like
that's
there's
right.
a stadium full of people out there, and it's like, we're going to talk about identity.
Yeah,
I'm
Jordan
like,
will tell me on the way to dinner at 6, and we're opening at 7:30.
Is that nerve-wracking at all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is, but I just give it all to God.
Yeah. Yeah. Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
I just give it all to God, and I ask for courage and strength before I go on stage.
Yeah.
And I think, and I ask, that I pray that I can say something that's meaningful.
Yeah. Yeah. So that talk to me was brilliant because you spoke to a lot of what I believe are the pain points happening today in society, specifically around women. But you beautifully connected it to your own story and some of what you experienced going to college and some of the social pressures and the rise of feminism, and you seemingly overcoming that and actually getting the thing that I would say, I don't want to hypergeneralize, but I would say most women want but don't know they want based on the pressures of society.
I'd agree with you. We're given especially the girls now are really told that the most fulfilling thing they'll do is have a career. And that is a total lie. It's a total lie. It isn't that, I stayed home with my kids, but I drew portraits. I did massages. While my kids were little, I stayed home, but I worked. And that worked out fine for me. And of course, now I travel all over the world. And so there's time to do both things. So we're going to ARC in February.
I'll be there.
Oh, good. In London. And I'm going to give a lunchtime 1-day seminar with about 10 women. And I'm going to hopefully have a blackboard in there or a whiteboard or something. And I want to outline with them a timeline for young women so that they can.
Oh, that's so needed.
So that they can look forward to a plan to have, to be educated, to get married, to fall in love, get married, and have children.
So I was talking to my sister. Hopefully she doesn't mind me sharing this. And she's a lawyer.
Yeah.
And I remember, I believe it was your husband that talked about the gender pay gap. And he talks about how women, the biggest drop off of women in the workforce is with lawyers in their 30s.
That's right.
Because they marry other lawyers or doctors, and a lifestyle between $200K a year and $400K a year doesn't really change anything. And so many of them say, I'm gonna get married and be a mom, right? And that's the hugest drop off. And so I'm talking to her, I say, hey, and I'm trying to be very delicate, right? Because she's amazing. She's brilliant. And I said, hey, like, I don't mean to poke, and you tell me if I'm out of line for asking you this, but is there something in you that now that you've done the thing, you've accomplished it, you got the job, you're the lawyer, like you're crushing it. Is this accurate? Like, what do you feel about this? And she said, oh, I can't wait to be a mom.
Oh, yeah.
She said, I'm so ready to be a mom. I'm so ready to live a different life. And I was like, that is so interesting. And it's so spot on.
Yeah.
And she had no shame saying that I want to be a mom. Like she doesn't have a boyfriend right now, but she's like, I want to be a mom. So she has this little dog, and she treats the dog like a kid. And
yeah,
she's in her early 30s, and I'm glad that she's a lawyer. I'm pumped for her. I'm happy for her. But it's just this tension that I think sometimes folks don't count the cost for when you are programmed career, education, and then you turn 30 and biology takes over, and you're like, oh, wait a minute. There's more to life than just this.
Yeah, I turned 25, and that's
so
what
for
I
you, it's
thought.
25.
Yeah, 25.
Well, so what was it at 25 that everything?
I wanted to
clicked?
have a baby.
Really?
Well, actually, I wanted to have a baby when I was 15. No, I thought I had this dream in my head, a 15-year-old dream that I was going to have a van, and I was going to have a baby, and I was going to drive around.
I mean, that's all over TikTok nowadays. That's a thing.
That's what I was going to do. It wasn't very well thought through, but a baby was always in the picture for me.
Were you married at 25? I don't remember.
I was married at 27.
27, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
no, I finished my degree probably when I was 25 or 26. And that's when Jordan called me Thanksgiving the year before I graduated and asked me if I wanted to come for dinner. I was in Ottawa, he was in Montreal. That's a 2-hour drive, not very far. And he'd been out in Alberta, which is 3,000 miles away, for the whole time. We would see each other at Christmas if I went home. That was it. Anyway.
Were you guys like really close up to this point, or were you just kind of acquaintances?
No, we were pretty close.
Pretty close, okay.
But we'd only see each other once a year.
Romantically or
Yeah,
just as friends?
romantically,
Romantically,
too.
okay. So just long distance relationship,
Yeah.
romantically, okay.
Yeah. And I went there for Thanksgiving, and I thought, his house is clean. He's got friends. He's getting his PhD, and he's writing a book. I think it's time to marry him.
Oh, that's so. Okay, is it true? He said on Pines for the Acquaintance he had to propose to you 3 different times?
It was 3.
What is that about?
Well, I'm a terrible tease, first of all. He wrote me, and he asked, will you marry me, in the return address? And I thought, oh, that's a joke. That's what I thought. Oh,
Yeah.
that's a joke.
Yeah.
I didn't take it seriously.
Yeah, he was
like
serious.
a letter? Like you were writing me a letter? Why don't you come here and put your knee down on the floor, you know?
Yeah, that's fair too.
So I didn't answer it. I didn't answer it a few times. I think it was maybe only once, but it's getting to be a long time ago, and I can't remember. He did ask me on New Year's Eve. We were in Grand Prairie, which is right beside where we grew up, at a party. And we went out to the school next door. There was a swing set. And he asked me to marry him there, and I said yes. I think that rattled his chain, because then I said yes. And I was still living in Ottawa at that point, and I didn't come there. I came there finally when I graduated in April. And I lived with a girl who was in his same PhD class in the same area. And then in March, I moved in with him because on February 29th, I asked him to marry me.
Yeah, he said that too.
Yeah, Sadie Hawkins Day. I didn't know there was such a thing, but that's the day I asked him.
That's so funny.
I don't know what that's about, but that's the day I asked him.
And he said yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we got married that August.
Oh, wow. So pretty
Soon after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how soon did you guys wait till having kids, or did you have kids right away?
Well, I wanted to have kids right away, and this is something women should pay attention to. I wanted to have kids right away. I was 27, and he was getting his PhD. He was starting his postdoc. He didn't feel yet that he was in a position financially to support a wife and a child. He said he went for a walk one night, and he thought about it, and he came home and he said, I don't know anything about babies. And I said, you don't have to know anything about babies. I'll take care of the baby. He said, and I'll take care of you. And I said, yeah, that sounds like a deal. right? And so then we decided to have a child, but that took from time I was 27 until I was 30. So that took 3 years. But I think I could have insisted more. And if I would have insisted more, I think it would have happened faster. And so I'm certain of this, it's up to women to decide if they're going to marry a man. And it's up to women to tell the man they want to have a baby. It's not up to anyone else. If you don't have a baby, it's because you didn't insist. That's why you didn't have it. And it's a hard reality to understand, that when you look back on things that you didn't do, that it was because of something you didn't do. But that is the case.
You know, it's so interesting. So we were younger when we got married. We were 23 and 21.
Nice.
And I mean, just probably way before we should have gotten married. And
it's never a good time.
Never a good time. And we waited a while. We waited 6 years.
Oh, yeah.
And all the same, you know, financial reasons, just not feeling like I was in a spot in my career. But we had the value of, hey, we're going to live on less than what we make. We're going to get out of debt, decrease our overhead. And so by the time we got married, we were in a spot where my wife could come home. And so she did with Levi, and it was still super tight. And then 6 months after that, she was actually the one that told me to quit my job and pursue being a musician, initially a musician, and then this full time.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, I was coming back from a big festival in Austin, Texas called South by Southwest.
Yeah, I know it.
And my son was 6 months at the time. I was working at my church as the media guy. So basically everything I do now, I did at my local church at the time, making $3,500 a month. And I called her. I could sense that, okay, I can't keep doing music and traveling and have this church job. It's not fair. And I called her and I said, hey, what do you think about, you know, maybe starting to pray about transitioning off of staff at the church and doing this music thing full time? And I remember she told me, she said, there's nothing to pray about. You need to come home and put in your 2-week notice.
Oh.
And I was like, you are more courageous than I am at this point. But sure enough, that commitment to have a kid rose something in me as a provider that I didn't even know was there.
Yeah.
And then it made her trust me, and it made me trust her. And we just haven't looked back. We just kept going. And it hasn't been easy, but I haven't worked like a job for anyone else since 2015. June of 2015.
Well,
so
life isn't supposed to be easy. It wouldn't be interesting. What does Jordan say? People don't go to movies to see just like a nice story where nothing happens. You go there to see adversity and people overcoming crazy situations. That's what you go to see. That's because that's what life is about.
Yeah, we relate to those stories.
Yeah, we relate to those stories.
Yeah. I saw the We Who Wrestle with God tour. Is this a continuation of that, or is this different?
No, it's the same. The book only came out in November.
Yeah.
And so we traveled for 5 months before the book came out. And now we're traveling till April in North America.
Okay. And then to get tickets, we'll link it below. Is it just...
you go to jordanpeterson.com to see where the shows are. His whole itinerary is there.
If you want to see the full extended version of this conversation, as well as all of our future conversations, have access to the chat, be able to ask our guests questions, you could sign up for a free 7-day trial. Patreon. The link is in the description and the pinned comment below. Here's a little preview of this conversation. All right? I'll see you over on Patreon. Peace.
I told God that if he spared me, I would speak publicly. And so here I am. You know, those prayers, if they're answered, you have an obligation.
And I was like, holy moly, this is how you guys roll, huh?
Yeah,
it's like
that's
there's
right.
a stadium full of people out there.
Yeah.
And it's like,
when you were younger, and Jordan and I, often they ask us what kind of regrets we have. It was the day that the doctor told me that I had this problem that I went home to see my son. I went for a checkup and I came home with a diagnosis. And it's up to women to tell the man they want to have a baby. It's not up to anyone else. If you don't have a baby, it's because you didn't. He was just teaching exactly what he's teaching. It's more biblical now. But now he realizes when he goes to church, it's a place for him to relax and meditate.
and he's been going to church with me.
Ruslan.